Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host, as usual, and obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 96 of the show, and we're going to do a little bit of house cleaning today because there are some changes going on. In regard to what I would say Monday, because of the time of this recording, Monday we published a video on the YouTube channel. So I highly recommend that if you guys haven't seen it, please go give it a look, check it out, see what you guys think, because it's a very important channel update that I'm not going to talk about it on the show because, that's why the video exists, is to clarify many things that's going to be changing. Not anything drastic, but definitely some good improvements and, the direction going forward, because it's very important. So I highly recommend you guys, go check out the YouTube page, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And obviously I'll be leaving a link to the channel down below. But today, in terms of the episode, we do have a good episode because it's won by unanimous decision. Because, you guys wanted me to talk about this because it seems like a lot of you are very interested in this. We're going to be talking about the iPhone 12. And the iPhone 12 is an interesting case, to say the least, because we already know that, look, at the time of this recording, April 15th is the rumored day that we will be getting the iPhone SE. And, obviously the time of the recording, today's the 14th. So, we're going to find out tomorrow, or really, on the 15th, the day this episode goes live, if we do get the iPhone SE. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is the iPhone 12, because that's what a lot of people really care about, is the new iPhone. And this year is going to be a very tricky year, This isn't the traditional, regular iPhone, big iPhone, and then, the cheaper, more affordable option iPhone, because that's been the trend for the last few years, with the XS and the XS Max, we got the XR, and then with the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max, we got the 11. And obviously the small version, like say either the XR or the 11, obviously were the best selling iPhones of the year because of how good they are for the price, especially because of the value they present, And now this year, is it going to be the same? And the answer is yes, but no. I posted this picture a while back on my Snapchat and my Instagram talking about it when Jon Prosser posted it, and I will be leaving a link to the video that Jon Prosser shared this information about his inside information that he has regarding the iPhone 12, because as we all know, we've been keeping up with Jon and a lot of things that he's been talking about, because Jon has been leaking a lot of information regarding Apple and has now become more of a credible source because of all of his predictions coming true. And so he has a lot of credibility on the line right now, or a lot of credibility right now in regards to these leaks, because this was an inside exclusive that Jon had, and that's really important. And this actually gives us an indication that we will be having 4 iPhones this year, not 3, 4. And this is a little bit interesting because this is the first time Apple is doing 4 phones. And I know we can talk about the specs and everything like that, which there are some specs included, but it's not entirely. But I don't want to primarily focus on the specs. I primarily want to focus on the idea of how this really changes Apple's philosophy a little bit, because as we've established, Apple really cares about getting the iPhones in their consumers' hands. That's all they care about right now, because they know that they make more money in the long run with software than they do with hardware. even though, yes, Apple is both a hardware and software company, because, you know, in terms of software, they make iOS, they make macOS, you know, iPadOS, which is basically just iOS, but for iPads. And they have all these services. They have, Apple Music, they have Apple TV, Apple TV Plus, Apple News, they have all these services that they have. And it makes logical sense that they would rather push you in the direction to buy like affordable hardware that can handle these services. So it makes it weird when you want to throw in 4 iPhones. And let me explain. So there is going to be 4 iPhones. And I actually have the picture right here next to me to describe what we're looking at this year. So we have 4 iPhones in the lineup. And granted, these aren't the official names. These are just placeholder names that were, just there, but it helps give an idea what they're going to represent, So we have 2 iPhone 12. So obviously the iPhone 12 would be the upgrade from the iPhone 11. And there's 2 versions of it. There's a 5.4 inch version, which this one, its internal code name is D52G. Obviously aluminum body, smaller notch. That's a lot of the leaks have been pointing towards a smaller notch on these iPhones because it's been time since it's been a while, about like more than 2 years that we should be getting a smaller notch. And it seems like internally this is the plan going forward, is that we will be getting a smaller notch in iPhones going forward. And maybe eventually we might get rid of it, but I'll take a smaller notch. I'll take it. But as we mentioned, smaller notch, aluminum body. It will be having the A14 processor, so obviously that is the next in line processor for Apple. And it will be 5G. And it'll have 2 cameras. And then we have the iPhone 12, again, except the 6.1 inch version. So this would be like the actual replacement for the 11 because, the 11 and the XR were 6.1 inches. And, its code name is D53G, aluminum body as well, smaller notch, stereotypical A14, 5G, 2 cameras. Now we go into the iPhone 12 Pro. Granted, these are not official names. These are just, placeholder names. This is the 6.1 inch version. So this is the smaller of the 2. Its code name internally is D53P. It is a stainless steel body. So obviously an upgrade from the aluminum body, smaller notch as well. And it would have an A14 processor, obviously, and 5G capabilities. And it's going to have 3 cameras plus the LiDAR sensor that was on the new iPad Pros. We'll talk about that in a bit as well. And then we have the iPhone 12 Pro Max. I still hate that name, to be honest. I really do. 6.7 inches. Code name internally is D54P. Stainless steel body, smaller notch, A14, 5G, 3 cameras, LiDAR. That is the internal leak that there is going to be for iPhones, describing, what they're going to look like, sizes, like obviously processors. So they will all share the same processor as Apple's been doing for the past few years that they've been doing this XR and then 11 like style type of phone with the main flagship phone. And for me, it's interesting. Primarily, first off, in terms of the LiDAR sensor for the Pros, it makes sense. Like, let's be honest, guys. Did you guys honestly think that they would just throw this LiDAR sensor onto an iPad and not use it ever again? Like, let's be honest for a second. Like, it was going to happen. We knew they were going to do this LiDAR sensor on an iPhone. I thought they would have saved it for the actual next iPhone, like the 13, but it makes sense that they're going to put it on this one too, because they definitely put it as a very big feature for the iPad, as a new innovation, like step forward in AR. So it just makes sense that it was going to be on the new iPhone. Now, granted, it makes sense that it's not going to be on the 12 because, well, it's the affordable option, and that's why they just want to stick with 2 cameras and not just throw a third one in there. It makes sense. But the fact that all 4 of them are going to have 5G is going to be very interesting. Now, there's a caveat with this, and I will talk about this in Friday's episode when we talk about the OnePlus 8, because at the time of this recording, the OnePlus 8 has finally been revealed. We know its pricing, we know its specs, and we're going to be talking about that because 5G is a very important topic in this discussion, mainly because I'm worried that these phones will not be cheap because of what Qualcomm is doing with the 865 or really their 5G modems. Because the way that Android manufacturers are, say, going this year is, yes, there will be a price hike because Qualcomm is very stubborn with the 5G modem. They're incredibly stubborn with it. We're not going to stand here and pretend that they're not. No, they're incredibly stubborn that they're forcing this into every phone, and it has to raise the price. And I'm worried that it will raise the price above what is considered normal for these new iPhones. Because think about it, from the XR to the 11, there was a price decrease by $50, and it's the exact same phone. And if you paid the extra $50, you would get double the storage. And the iPhone 11 at 128 gigs was the same price as the base model XR. You get what I'm saying? Like, Apple's decreased the price, which has never happened. So I'm worried for the iPhone 12 and the, both iPhone 12s, the 5.4 inch and 6.1 inch, that it won't be as affordable. Now, granted, Apple can do whatever they want because, it's Apple. So they could take a loss because they know they'll sell the iPhones like hotcakes. They know they'll make their money back. But to me, it's interesting that there's going to be a 5.4 inch, because Apple hasn't made a smaller phone than 6.1 inches in a while, if you think about it. The last one was the iPhone 8. And granted, we will be getting the iPhone SE soon. So, that kind of takes away from it a bit. But actually a brand new flagship phone, there hasn't been a new one that starts at 5.4 inches. They've always started at either 6.1 or above. And I know a lot of people miss that form factor. Because I'd say, in my perspective, I get the appeal with smaller phones. There's some people that are just like, look, bigger phones are really annoying to deal with. They're just too big in the hands. It's just hard to use it with two. You get what I mean? They're annoyed that they have to use two hands instead of one hand. That's why a lot of people miss the form factor of, say, the iPhone 4 and iPhone 5 and the original iPhone SE. They miss that form factor of being able to one-hand a phone. Now, granted, 5.4 inches is not one-handed capable. You could do it, depending. But it at least is more accessible that it's a smaller phone because people miss that form factor. They miss having a smaller phone. And I think that's a good idea. Especially because if you think about it, the iPhone 12, or let's say realistically, because we know the iPhone 12 is just the iPhone 11 and the XR. If they would have made a smaller version of the iPhone 11, I think that would have sold incredibly well too. Especially because, the smaller version is going to be cheaper. So if, say, Apple keeps the prices the same, say the iPhone 12 starts at $699 and say the smaller version is less, then I guarantee you the smaller version is going to sell incredibly well. And given Apple's recent history with battery optimization and the new processors being very efficient, the smaller version is going to have good battery life. We know it will. It's going to have good battery life. The iPhone 11 Pro, and the 11 Pro Max had incredible battery life. The XR had good battery life in comparison to the XS and the XS Max, which had terrible battery life. And then you have, say the iPhone SE coming, which I'm suspecting is going to have good battery life too, because Apple's been killing it with battery optimization. And with me, I think what makes this interesting is this just reinforces the idea that Apple is definitely hardcore pushing services. They're going to do whatever they can to push as many, I would say, services. Well, it's trying to get hardware into the hands of people so that they could use their services. They want more people using their services. That's the whole game plan. That's why they're making them more affordable. Do I believe that the iPhone 12s will be the best-selling iPhones of the year? Yes, because it's happened. It statistically has happened every year that the XR was the best-selling iPhone of that year. The iPhone 11 was the best-selling iPhone in its year, etc., etc. It's bound to happen because people, I would say, I don't like using the word average consumer, but the average consumer, that's what they care about. They just care about a phone that has good performance, good camera, good software. That's all they care about. And statistically, the iPhone XR and the 11 both provided that because they have the exact same cameras as the bigger phones. They do. It just has one less camera, but you have the same camera quality, you have the same software, you have the same processor. Granted, the display is not the exact same, but everything else is the same, except RAM, because obviously. But it also has good battery life too. So I'm interested to see where the iPhone 12s line up, because if I really, really hope that because of the whole 5G modem thing, it doesn't raise their prices drastically. I know there's going to have to be a price hike, unless if Apple just says, hey, we're not raising prices, we're going to still decrease them. Then that would be a really bold move on Apple's part. But they know that they're going to make that money back if they do it. Because if you tell people, hey, you can buy an iPhone for $650, dude, people would jump on that. Like, people jumped on the 11 when it came out because $699 for an iPhone. Heck yeah, people are going to do that because it's a good phone. Like, it is. Now, I know some people are saying, oh, Josh, you're being an Apple sheep. Like, no, it's objectively speaking, it was a good phone. The iPhone 11 is still a good phone that I would recommend to this day, to be honest. The XR, maybe not, but, you know, for its price, maybe I would probably still recommend it. But I would say if you're going to buy an iPhone now, the iPhone 11 would be the best choice. There's no point in buying the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max unless you really, really need it, which most of us don't really need it. Let's be honest with ourselves. Like, being honest, you don't need it. You're not going to be using that phone to its fullest potential anyways. But in regards to the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max, the fact that it's including the LiDAR sensor is going to be interesting because this is definitely shaping up to be the year that Apple is putting more of an emphasis on AR now. Think about it. They put the LiDAR sensor on the iPad. Nobody asked for the LiDAR sensor on the iPad. Nobody cared. And most people don't view it as an advantage right now. I say that right, and I'm heavily emphasizing the word right now. It is not important right now. There's not many programs that use it to its fullest potential, and it's just not so useful right now. Granted, things can change in the future. And I say this because keep this in mind. Remember the 2018 iPad Pro when it came out? When the 2018 iPad Pro came out, yes, it was definitely a big jump in performance from the second gen iPad Pro, which was a 10.5 inch refresh in 2017. And then you got the big boys, which had Face ID, and they were big jumps in performance, but they weren't able to utilize that power so much because there wasn't anything to utilize it. And it still felt handicapped, you know? It still felt limited, you know? It didn't feel like you were utilizing all that power. Fast forward 2 years later, it's now right now it's considered one of the best tablets you can get because it has iPad OS, mouse support, you know, it's able to do high-end video editing on a mobile platform, mobile video editing with no issues, no compromises, good video editing software in the forms of LumaFusion, and more support coming. It has Photoshop for people that want to edit photos on the go. And you see this, that it only took a year, because remember in 2019, that's when iPadOS came out, and people say that's when the 2018 iPad Pro finally unlocked its full potential. And then iPadOS just keeps growing and growing. And they, think about it. They just added all these new features. Like, mouse support is huge. You know, we got the new Magic Keyboard coming. Granted, it's still super expensive. But the fact that mouse support is now available and it's its own unique thing. And now we're getting more optimizations. We're getting better software for it. You know, and obviously now we have the new iPad Pros, which have even more power. And, well, I say even more power, but you get what I mean. It's not really that much more powerful. It's barely 5-10% more powerful. But you get what I'm saying, is now we're able to utilize that hardware much more effectively. And I think this is a case with the iPhone 12s when they come out, is yes, they will be incredibly powerful phones. But that LiDAR sensor is not going to be useful until later down the line, to be honest. It won't be that useful. You know, maybe in the course of a year, Apple's able to implement better AR, software. They're able to include, more applications that are able to use the AR function. Who knows? Maybe it might, maybe they might implement something with Apple Maps, and make it even better that it uses that LiDAR sensor for something important in there. That would be pretty cool, because I know a lot of people, that have iPhones, they either use Google Maps or they use Apple Maps. Granted, I don't like the maps that's built into iOS, but that would be pretty cool, But aside from that, I'm interested to see where they decide to go with this, because this is the first year Apple's doing 4 phones. And granted, people already looked at Apple like they were crazy to make, 3 phones, people thought they were insane for doing that. But it's worked out so far, because what they care about is pumping out more products into the line, because they're like, look, we need to have more control over this vast range. Because if you think about it, I'd say the $400 to $600 price range for smartphones is very competitive. And then, I'd say $400 to $700 really is probably the most competitive, because that's, borderline mid-range to high-end. But it's going to be interesting. Now, granted, yes, this year I'm predicting that, yes, the iPhone 8 will be gone. the iPhone XR will be gone, and those will be gone because, one, as we've already established, we're getting a new iPhone SE, so that will replace the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. Obviously the iPhone 12, the smaller version, and then its bigger version will replace the iPhone XR, which makes sense. Like, it's already going to be 2 years old, and it's time to cut it. Doesn't mean it won't still get software support, but you get what I mean, is like it just won't be vastly available as usual. The iPhone 11, I would be surprised if they keep the iPhone 11 around, especially because, as we've already established, the 12 is probably going to look the exact same way. It's just going to be a smaller notch and a better processor and 5G. So I'm like, I don't know. They could keep the 11 around. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because, when the 11 came out, they kept the XR. So, and, obviously if they reduce the price of the 11 to, like, say $500, I would say pick it up for sure, because that's a really good price for it. To be honest, what you're getting would be a good price, because I'm always under the assumption that 5G is it is useless right now. It's pointless. There's no point in getting a phone with 5G right now. It's pointless. Some people are like, oh, but it's future proof. No, it's not. By the time 5G is actually useful, your phone's outdated. It'll be 3 to 5 years down the line. You're not going to hold on to your phone to 3 to 5 years. And by then, your phone's going to be like dead. Like, you're going to need to swap it out. And then 5G modems will be so much better in those future phones. And it makes no logical sense. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of sucks that Qualcomm's doing that, where they're forcing the 5G modems into every phone. But, it sucks. But that's just how things are. And, also given the state of how the world is right now, charging so much money for phones may not be the best idea, especially because some people are losing their jobs. Some people are tight on money. They want to be more, say, financially conscious with their money. I'm probably not doing that so much, but that's a different thing. But you get what I'm saying, is that it's going to be interesting to see what Apple does. Like, I'm more concerned about the price being increased due to the 5G modem, even though I think putting 5G and stuff is just dumb. It's just an advertising thing right now. And it's just like, hey, we got 5G. We're cool. If you don't got 5G, you suck. Like, that's kind of how people view it. And it's like, nobody cares about it. Nobody's using 5G. It's useless. Like, it's terrible. Like, it's still in its infancy. It's still not, like, I'm not saying that it won't be the backbone of how we communicate in the future, but I'm just saying that future is not today. It's trash. The Verizon one, yes, you get good speeds. It's also very, very inconsistent. The T-Mobile one, speeds are better, still slow, but it's more consistent, but still not good enough to justify that price hike, and then you also have to buy a mobile plan that has it, and it just involves a whole lot of technical things that aren't still up to par to what it should be, especially with how much they're pushing it. You get what I'm saying? And in my opinion, I think the iPhone 12s, like the whole 12 lineup, seems very promising. Now, granted, we don't know much more about it besides like other things here and there, but I do want to say that this is also information that needs to be shared. There is a chance that the iPhone 12s will be delayed. And I wanted to save this for the last bit of the discussion, mainly because, given the whole circumstances of how the world is right now, and a lot of inside information that Jon Prosser has been providing, yes, it does seem like the iPhone 12s might be delayed. And given the whole circumstances of everything, because mass production didn't start until a while back, or really it probably hasn't even started yet. And one thing that some people say that, well, I think even Jon Prosser said it himself, that the final designs have not been approved since, due to the whole travel restraints going on right now, the Apple executives haven't been able to go to China to go actually look at and approve of the final design so that mass production can begin, because, Apple doesn't like doing a FaceTime or anything like that, like to confirm the design. No, they prefer to be there in person to see the designs and finalize them themselves. And it's going to be interesting, because the fact that the iPhone 12s could be delayed, I'm saying this just upfront and being honest with y'all. The well-being and safety of people is much more important than a new phone or, say, new pieces of hardware. Like, people's well-being and safety is much more important. Like, that's just the number one, like, honest truth, is that people are more important than these tech goods. I would rather have people being safe, in good health, and not putting their lives in danger just to make a stupid phone. I'm being honest with you. As much as I love tech, people are much more important than tech. Let's be honest. People are much more important because you can't replace people. You can't. As much as people say you can't, no, you cannot replace people. Everybody is unique. Everybody is, something special. They are someone special. You can't just replace them. And I would prefer that the delay go through and that people will be safe and well taken care of, and that nobody is putting their life on the line just for something that's going to get replaced in a year. You get what I'm saying? So if it is true that the iPhones will be delayed, I wouldn't be so shocked because it makes sense. We knew this was going to happen. With the whole circumstances going on in the world, we knew this was going to happen. And it's okay if it gets delayed, if it doesn't get delayed, then cool. I just hope it didn't cost anybody their life, because that would suck. But if it does get delayed, I hope you guys don't get mad, because it's first off, if you get mad about this, come on, guys, grow up, grow up. But I think, in my opinion, the delay makes sense. It makes sense given the whole circumstances of everything. And, yes, it would be weird because Apple would normally doesn't launch a phone super late. We're talking about November-ish, December-ish, if it gets delayed to December, that'd be pretty crazy, to have 4 iPhones launch in December. Now, that'd be an interesting Christmas because, if things are still the way they are, it's going to be interesting to say the least. But if things die down and the phones actually end up getting launched in December, it's going to be an interesting Christmas. November, makes sense. We've had an iPhone launched in November, the iPhone X, or the iPhone 10 when it originally launched. If you guys remember, it launched in November. It was revealed in October, but launched in November. But it would be interesting, to say the least. 4 iPhones. If it's in Christmas, if it's in during December, that would be insane. 4 iPhones, shopping for Christmas presents is going to be very, very interesting, especially because, which iPhone do you get? There's 4 of them, and most of them, and 2 of them have the exact same name. So, got to figure it out. But aside from that, I think that's really all I have. We really covered everything that needed to be covered. And I just want to say this, just to, reiterate, please be safe, guys. I know that things suck being locked inside. I know it's not easy, being in your house, or, and I'm also speaking from the perspective of a college student. For my fellow college students, I know it's hard. Our classes, some of them are much easier, but then there's some of them that become much more difficult because they were not meant to be done online. I'm an engineering student. I'm computer engineering. My circuits class is much more challenging online than in person. And it's hard. It's a transition. It's a shift that requires, patience. It requires, consistency. It requires, focus. And I know right now that's a little bit hard to do with, given the whole circumstances going outside right now, that it's hard to be focused. It's hard to be calm, relax, be rational human beings when you have, all this information flying at you 100 miles an hour. It's so hard to do. And, I thank you guys so much that you guys, keep coming back and listening to my show, because, I'm doing the best that I can to at least provide content and provide entertainment for y'all, and also give you guys some more news that's not so, grim, because I don't see the point of just hammering home that, yeah, people are dying left and right or stuff like I just don't see that as helpful. I don't see that as, I wouldn't say not necessary, but I wouldn't say it's not helpful in this time that people really do not need to be freaking out right now, because that's not going to help. That's not what's going to make things better. And, I always say that I like how one of my friends put it, where he's like, for the lack of a better word, there's just so much shit out there right now. And it's hard, some people aren't accustomed to being locked indoors all day, or just they can't go out and spend time with their friends, and it's hard. And I can just tell y'all that, yes, I do know that in time things will get better. I can say that wholeheartedly. And, me and many other people are just continuing to have faith that things will get better. and that we just have to be patient. We have to be playing our part and being active in what we can do, respecting people's space, washing our hands, always using hand sanitizer, being safe, try to stay indoors as best as you can, and do everything in respect to your neighbor, in respect to your family, in respect to your friends, because you don't know. Like, trust me, I've had many friends come to me and tell me that, they've had family members pass away because of the situation. It's not easy. But that's the whole point, is that we just have to be mindful, because as much as we like being optimistic and talking about tech here and, try to be honest with y'all, sometimes there's just situations where things are real and it's like, hey man, this stuff can go south. It can go good or bad at any moment, and we just have to be patient and just keep playing our part and doing what we can. Like, I feel it's kind of fun to me to talk about tech and at least bring some form of encouraging news and at least bring some form of lighthearted news towards you guys, so that you guys would have something to escape from, the reality of things going on out there, that it's just more uplifting stuff, like not grim, gritty, like, all the stuff you're seeing on the news, but just news that's fun, like that you can talk about things you like. And, and I thank you guys so much for coming back and listening and supporting my show. It really means a lot to me that you guys, keep coming back, you keep sharing, obviously, as I mentioned, the channel update, I'm going to be leaving a link to the channel down in the description below, so you guys can go check out the update video that I made, and that we can go forward from here, because, we still have another episode this week where we're going to be talking about the OnePlus 8. But I hope that all the information that I provided with you today is helpful. I hope that for anybody that's interested in the iPhone 12, I hope that this provided some clarification on something. Like I said, we do not know exactly everything about this phone. Like, we don't know spec for, like, we know some of the basic specs. We know the processor. We know that they're going to have 3 cameras plus the LiDAR. We know there's going to be a smaller notch. We know the display sizes. We know there's 4 phones. We still don't know everything else, because that's still stuff that hasn't been fully confirmed, because given the whole circumstances. But in time, we will be getting those details, and I will be sharing those details with y'all as I get them, because I have to, have my ear to the ground and paying attention and listening to the details and, taking it all in, analyzing it, and, sorting out what's true, what's not true, and going from there, But I really appreciate that you guys keep coming back and listening. It really means a lot to me that you guys do that, because you guys are awesome. You guys always put a smile on my face when you guys like the episodes, listen to them, download them. It just helps so much. And, if you guys are interested, you can even support my Patreon page, like, because it helps me out. Like, I know right now money is tight, but that's kind of the nice thing why I even have my Patreon. Is my Patreon, I make it accessible to everyone. That it's just, hey, $2 a month, you get early access to the episodes. And then in time, I'll be adding more to it to give more incentive. Like, hey, like, say you get exclusive content with $2 a month, or if you pay a little bit more, you get this content, and, et cetera, et cetera. But if you guys are interested, just supporting the show, like $2 a month, if you're able to do that, cool. If you're not, that's awesome. Like, either way, you guys are supporting me just by listening, and if you want to support financially, then you have the means to do it, but don't go out of your way to do it if it's stressing you out financially. Like, do not do that. Like, I will say this now, if you're struggling with money, please hold on to it. Do not go support my Patreon. I know it's very inexpensive, but I would feel bad. Like, I don't want to put more stress on you financially. I hope that you guys, like, that are struggling right now, I hope that, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, like, I'm praying for y'all. I hope that everything goes well, that, everything is able to go back to normal, and that you would not be in this situation, because I don't wish that situation on you. I hope that you realize that nobody wishes that kind of situation on anyone, because that sucks, not having a job. Like, I know how that feels. Like, I just got hired for a new job, and then I got told I had to go home. So now I don't have a job anymore. So, but for now, thank you guys so much for everything. You guys are awesome. I love you guys to death. Please be safe. Don't do anything dumb. Like, have a wonderful rest of your week until I see you guys on Friday when we talk about the OnePlus 8 launch event, which I already have a lot of thoughts about that. And that's going to be, oh boy, that's going to be a discussion, because there's going to be a lot to talk about, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of my opinions rather than breaking down the actual phone itself. But aside from that, I hope you guys enjoy. I hope this episode was very helpful and you find it very informative. Again, if you guys enjoy the episode, please share it, like it. You guys know what to do already. But thank you guys for your time. I love you guys to death. Please be safe. Continue to do what you got to do to be safe and take care of others. And I'll see you guys on Friday. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.